We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
In terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been.
A few moments later.
In regards to groceries.
Okay. It seems like you're having a hard time articulating her plan. And
honestly, that's not true. Please, I'm constantly being interrupted by you, which as a woman, I think is disrespectful. When I'm trying to speak, every time I try and speak, you speak over me.
It seems that every time Kamala surrogates and the corporate media, who is obviously in the pocket of Kamala Harris, specifically MSNBC, when they are asked a simple question about Kamala Harris, they end up exploding. And so in this video, what we're going to do is react to this Kamala surrogate who gets embarrassed on Fox News. She had no way of describing what Kamala Harris's plan is for America. And then we're going to hear from Joe Scarborough, who couldn't even contain himself after a common sense point made on the Bill Maher show. Let's start here.
What is Harris's plan? We're waiting.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot of aspects to it in regards to looking at it online. So let's talk about lowering the grocery costs, because that's something that's brought up. The viewers can look at this online. She talks about certain things in regards to advancing the first federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, to set clear rules to the road to make it clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers as well.
Is that happening? Is that happening?
It's not at this moment. No, this is her plan that's laid out for the first 100 days when she becomes president of the United States of America.
Gouging, is that currently happening?
In regards to I don't know exactly if that's currently happening or not, because I'm not privy to that type of information. Okay. But there are people are costing a lot of money in regards to groceries.
Okay. It seems like you're having a hard time articulating her plan. And
honestly, that's not true. Please, I'm constantly being interrupted by you, which as a woman, I think is disrespectful. When I'm trying to speak, every time I try and speak, you speak over me.
Okay. Final thought.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. I was giving you time there. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, just an absolute meltdown on TV live. I mean, that's embarrassing because the issue is she chose to go on to that show. She chose to be a surrogate for Kamala Harris. She chose to be the person who's going to go on there today and explain why Kamala Harris is the right choice for America. And she utterly failed. Now, part of it is not even her fault, because she's dealing with a candidate who has no plan, which we know this already.
She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
So it's hard to articulate that plan, which is why her campaign right now is trying to bait Trump into another debate, because they know they can't win this election based on policy. They can't. They've got to draw Trump out and continue to make him look like the bad guy. The only way they can do that more effectively is to get him onto another debate stage. Hopefully it's them and the moderators against Trump again. That works against Trump. And the only way that this problem could be solved, or should have been solved already for Kamala Harris, is if she was sitting down doing interviews. And this is what was brought up on the Bill Maher show. Watch.
It's not too much to ask Kamala, say, are you for a Palestinian state if Hamas is going to run that state?
Okay.
Yes or no?
And let's say you don't like her answer. Are you going to vote for Donald Trump?
No, I'm not.
Kamala
I just said I'm not going to vote for her.
Harris is not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. We have 2 choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2016 for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy.
I don't know.
So it's unclear to me how there could be an informed...
The problem that a lot of people have with Kamala is we don't know her answer to anything, okay?
But you know
and
his answer to everything.
And that's why I would never vote for him, and people shouldn't vote for him. But people also are expected to have some idea of what the program is of the person you're supposed to vote for. You're just not supposed to say, well, you have to vote for Y because X is this, that, and the other. Let's find out a little bit more. And I don't think it's a lot to ask her to sit down for a real interview as opposed to a puff piece in which she describes like her feelings of growing up in Oakland with nice lawns.
Then I would just say to that, when you move to Nirvana, give me your real estate broker's number and I'll be your next door neighbor. We don't live there.
Okay, so you see how they gaslight people? This is why they're going to lose. The Democrats have a bad case of gaslighting Americans, gaslighting independents, gaslighting undecideds. That guy is not voting for Trump. He's probably the best example of what the Democrat Party is weak at right now as she's running this campaign. He's flat out saying, I'm never going to vote for Trump, but I'm not voting for Kamala because I don't know what she plans to do. So if their response is, well, you don't need to know what she's going to do. You just need to know that you shouldn't vote for Trump. And if they think that's going to work, clearly it's not. That's why they call them undecided voters. I mean, the bottom line is the more they gaslight these undecided voters and don't give them what they're asking for, it's just going to be a disaster for Kamala Harris. Because again, that guy, he's not going to vote for Kamala Harris. He'll just vote third party or sit it out. Does that hurt Donald Trump or does that hurt Kamala Harris? It hurts Kamala Harris more. But listen, we know that's common sense. We know if we have some level of emotional maturity, we could come to the conclusion that that is the more likely outcome. But trying to explain that to people who work for MSNBC is talking to a wall, as we've seen with Joe Scarborough's response. Watch.
That really is. And I like Brett, and I like Bill Maher said, he's a fan of what he reads, but I don't know what universe he lives in. He actually said, we don't know her answer to anything. That's just false.
Not true.
It's just false. He obviously hasn't been watching the campaign. And again, I know you're going to get into this, but compare what she said. And again, we can go through the issues with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Whether it's that rambling answer on child care, whether it was the nonsensical answers during the debate. And by the way, she wants to debate again. Donald Trump doesn't, because he doesn't talk about the issues. He can't talk about the issues. But again, there's this false equivalency from the anti-Trump crowd and also from the mainstream media.
She served as a senator, as a prosecutor, as an attorney general, and the vice president. She also has a record.
She has
something you can compare to Trump.
You know what? You're right. She does have a record. But clearly that's not what she's running on, because if she did, she'd lose. We all know this already. She's running a personality campaign. Joys and vibes, not policy, not results. If she truly wanted to run on her record, she'd be going around celebrating all of the failings that occurred during the last 3.5 years. She's not doing that. So that doesn't make sense. The other thing that doesn't make sense is when he says, well, we don't know what her plans are. That is the truth. That is the reality. And let me explain to you guys why what Brett said is spot on. It's called repetition. Repetition is what fixes an idea in a person's mind psychologically. So if I keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again, right, for 1 month, versus a different idea that I've been repeating to you for the last 3 years, which idea is probably going to stick with you more? The one I've been repeating to you for the last month, or the one I've been repeating to you for the last 3 years? Obviously, the one that I've been repeating to you for the last 3 years. That's Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump has been saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And he was already the president. So he really doesn't need to go out there and expand on anything because people already know what he's going to do because he's done it before. The problem with Kamala Harris is she doesn't have that luxury. Why? Because she's a last minute candidate. And whose fault is that? Not Kamala Harris. That's the Democrats. That's Joe Scarborough. That's their obsession with Trump. Instead of focusing on preparing the proper candidate for this election, they were too busy trying to take out Trump. So they took their eye off the ball. So now we are where we are, where Kamala Harris is unprepared. She can't get a message to stick, right? Because she hasn't had enough time. So that's on her. So when they say, yeah, I don't know what her plans are, I don't know what she stands for, it is the truth because it takes repetition and it takes time And time is not something that she has on her side right now. So excuse me, Joe, even though you may want her to be the answer, unfortunately, you and your cronies put yourself in a bad position by being so obsessed with Trump. Now, me and you both know MSNBC is peak delusion. They have a fatal case of Trump derangement syndrome, which you will find a case of on all of their shows, all of their programmings. And when you have a conservative that comes on and provides common sense, the backlash is incredible. And that's what happened over the weekend when Mrs. Yates, who I follow on X, great person, I love her commentary, she goes on to this show and does what all conservatives do, provides common sense, and they just can't handle it. Watch this.
And this is sound of Donald Trump at his rally in North Carolina today without Mark Robinson. And what he had to say about Oprah.
Did you see her on Oprah? That's not going to be president. Oprah didn't know what the hell to do. Oprah was like embarrassed. She wanted to hide under the table. But she's a professional and she was able to sort of disguise it. No, she wanted to go right under the table.
Whitley, why does Donald Trump lie like that? I mean, everybody knows. Come on.
I think that there were times during that interview where it looked like Oprah was trying to figure out where VP Harris was going. And I think when we're looking at this circumspectly, when we're talking about battleground states and talking to working everyday Americans, utilizing a billionaire who's not dealing with the cost of inflation, with stagnant wages, with stagnant industries is really just out of touch. And I think that's what he really meant to say, is that hiding behind Hollywood as opposed to really just talking about the policies of your administration may not be working specifically in battleground states.
That is literally rich, Whitley.
Thank you. It's wealthy. It's wealthy. It's wealthy. It's wealthy.
A rich man. Come on.
A couple of things here. So Oprah is one of the only people who has been able to have an audience of 20 million people for over many, many years. So I mean, she is a professional here and she does have an audience and she knows how to coordinate or how to appeal to wide audiences. The second thing is I'm really tired of all of the surrogates and Donald Trump and the JD Vance all saying this. That's not what the candidates are saying. That is not what they're doing. They're insulting people personally. They're being mean. They're being really vindictive. They're not sticking to the issues. And if they were sticking to the issues and saying what you think they mean to say, we'd be in a much different race. But they can't control themselves and they just need to be mean and vindictive. And that's not winning them the independent voters.
Okay, hold on really quick. Telling the truth in 2024 is being mean and vindictive. Got it. That's what they're saying, which is disrupting our ability to really have a conversation with people. They don't like opposing views. They don't like people to give them something that is different. And it is a fact. Kamala Harris has 0 policies that she can run on.
I don't need a history lesson on Oprah, who's Black.
That's not winning them the independent voters.
Well, I definitely don't need a history lesson on Oprah, who's Black history, because I'm very familiar with all that she has done. But what I'm saying is when you're talking to people specifically in a state where the average salary is $49,000, bringing a billionaire up on stage is going to present out of touch, specifically for working class Americans. And let me explain why. It's because the issues that they're talking about does not impact her the same, as opposed to having working class people maybe engaging with her, maybe a town hall forum. She has been utilizing celebrities to promote her campaign as opposed to utilizing working class people or utilizing them to speak to working class people. And there is a disconnect.
That right there is dropping the hammer when it comes to common sense. I mean, she couldn't said it any better than that. And I feel the same exact way. And that's what they did at the RNC. RNC, 50% at least of the speakers were local people. Don't even know what their names are. Unknown. But they were part of the community from all different backgrounds. And it is a great point. Why not bring a working class worker there, put him on stage, and tell a story? Oh, I know why. Because, again, that doesn't speak to what Kamala Harris is strong in. Policies. What she's strong in is identity politics, which is what they doubled down on during that Oprah event, right? Which is why you heard them lie about the Trump abortion ban in Georgia.
No, I mean, did you watch the town? I mean, it was a town hall. It was a town hall style forum, and Oprah Winfrey is I mean, she's not a talk show host now or a journalist now, but it was like watching Oprah from the 90s and the 80s.
And also the polls are closing. So clearly she's doing something right because she's meeting people where they are, because she is now leading in the polls and she's closing on issues that were Donald Trump's, like the economy and immigration. So something is working.
But polls are a snapshot in time, and we all know that,
Yeah,
right? She was just down in the polls, specifically losing with African-American men, and this doesn't necessarily help her. When you see her utilizing celebrities in this way, when they want policies, they don't want the performance of Hollywood within their political spheres.
I mean, again, if you watched the town hall forum, you heard her talk about policies.
No, actually, we didn't. What we heard was a bunch of word salads. I showed you guys this clip because MSNBC, they're never going to be impartial about anything as it pertains to Kamala Harris. I mean, they are all in. So, of course, MSNBC hosts, they can't take any level of common sense. If you ask them a simple question, they melt down about Kamala Harris. When it's a respectable question, it's an expected question, especially if someone's running to be the commander-in-chief. We should want to know certain policies. And here's the other thing. As I wrap this up, I said it earlier, time is not on her side. This is what happens when you run a last-minute candidate. You have to do things that maybe normally candidates wouldn't have to do. She needs to answer questions. You know why? Because she just became the nominee. So nobody knows her. That's why. But if she was the nominee 2 years ago, right, or went through an actual open primary and then did some debates, right, and they did an open convention, right? Maybe you wouldn't be in this position, but because you guys wanted to do things in the name of democracy, this is your weakness. This is where it doesn't work for you. So what are you really going to do, right? She has no answers for that. The only answer she has right now is we need to defeat Donald Trump because he's a threat to democracy and he's going to take away your daughter and your wife's and your mother's rights as a woman. That's what they got. And I don't believe that's going to win an election, especially when everyone on both sides have been negatively impacted by the economy, by inflation, and by immigration. That's why she loses. And that's my opinion. What do you guys think about how these surrogates and MSNBC melted down over these simple questions? What do you think about Joe Scarborough? I think I know the way you think about him, probably the same way I do. Peak delusion, of course. And what do you think about Whitley Yates, who, sticks it to them again with simple common sense, calmly dismantles their delusion? I want to know what your thoughts are about her, about these hosts, and everything else we talked about in this video in the comment section below. Thank you so much for checking out the video today. You want to support the channel, go to the link in the description, grab yourself a t-shirt, or buy us a cup of coffee. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.